Okay, dokie. Alright, I think I should be live. Assuming my instruments are not lying to me today. Okay. Alright, there is one thing I think I forgot to do though. Apologies. I think the chat box is connected to a different thing. Hold on. Yeah, it was. Okay, hold on. Hey Nathan, hey Jenny, hey Pierce, how you guys doing? Welcome. You arrived. Yes, I arrive. Yeah, just fixing a couple things here. A little bit last minute. Yeah, as some of you guys were used to the normal channel schedule, today I was supposed to do the D&D, sorry, not D&D, the Cyberpunk Red campaign, but we ended up canceling due to too many players not being available to come in and play. So that was unfortunate, and I was planning to do this anyway. That's the thing, that's what I'm trying to fix, is it's not currently connected to the right chat box, so I'm correcting that right now. But yeah, I intended to do the Cyberpunk Red campaign today, but again, that got canceled due to too many of the boys being out. So this stream that I intended to do, I was mostly planning to do it tomorrow. I'm now going to do it right now. So it's a little more off the cuff, but hopefully, if anything, that makes it more honest. So yeah, today's a general Q&A on Warglaive Gothic, the tabletop war game and TTRPG and setting I am developing, which I have not done a proper update in a very long time. Admittedly, that's my bad. I'm not even gonna... All I can do is apologize. I have no good excuse for that other than negligence, and that is, again, entirely on me. It's very unprofessional and very disrespectful to the people who have been supporting the project for so long to not do something like this more often, for one, and for two, not at any kind of like regularity. So that again is just, it's on me, my bad, and I can't say anything more than that other than that. It's purely apologies on that front, and hopefully this makes up for it a little bit. So, I am honest. I am honest all the time. It's just sometimes, you know, if you pre-prepare your thoughts or pre-prepare any kind of response, though, people tend to call that dishonest, somewhat. So, in this case, when I say more honest, it's more akin to more off the cuff. So everything I say is more off the top of my head and more instinctual responses rather than any kind of like preparedness. So, in that sense, quote unquote, more honest. Alright. Connecting to the jetbox now. There it goes. Hey Tang, how you doing, brother? How am I doing today? A little bit better than yesterday. Not significantly so. I'm still a little rattled from yesterday and upset. I'm not gonna pretend I'm not, unfortunately. But yeah, I had a very, very, very bad day yesterday. Not my worst day by any stretch. I mean, by all accounts, this is not even... Yesterday wasn't even my top 10 worst days, but it was my worst day recently, outside of my sister having a medical problem. So it was rough, but I'm doing better today. Me and my dad got some work done on the barn. We're trying to add a concrete base floor for part of it. And, yeah. Yeah. I did, but like I said, though, I did have a rough yesterday. So I'm hoping that's not going to rub off too much in this. Yeah, as the stream title suggests, today is a Q&A. There, I will have the call line Discord open. I encourage, the link to it is going to be in the description as well if you want to ask me any questions over VC. I will add myself to the call line before I forget. There we go. Well, now that you bring that up, actually, it's gonna be a hot minute before I play any games. Well, at least 2 regularly. That kind of goes into part of today with Warglaive's progress being slow, and unfortunately, I received, I would say in the wrong way, a notice that someone was very dissatisfied with the progress on Warglaive Gothic, which is the tabletop game I'm working on, like I said. And that was depressing. Especially since the way I found out was them abandoning my community, flipping me off as they went, generally being a dickhead, and completely abandoning... Well, I don't think we were ever friends, given their choice of actions and yesterday. So, generally just a person I did at one point look at positively, now I couldn't think lower of. He's probably... he's above certain individuals I've encountered, but considering certain individuals are subhuman trash, I don't know if that's a compliment or not. He's not at the bottom of the barrel. He's close to the bottom. Generally, not someone I like anymore. But not because of simply them being disappointed in the work of the project. It mostly comes from the stabbing in the back and just general not treating me like a friend. When that seems to be a trend, unfortunately. And again, I'm learning the hard way. You shouldn't put any stock in the friendships you make online. Because, again, it stabs you in the back. Like, people on the internet take it way too easy to just kind of flip you off and walk away. Especially since they don't have to look you in the eye, they don't have to talk to you in person, they don't have to communicate with you in any way. They can just literally cut you off with a click of a button, and that's it. So, in the case of this individual I'm talking about, that was as easy as it was for them. Yeah. And I appreciate it, Jenny. But, yeah. Like I said, yesterday was rough. But I did find out from someone else today also that, yeah, there's more than one person disappointed with the progress on the project. So, yeah, I'm going to try and double down as much as I can, given I have tomorrow off. I'm going to try and get as much done as I can tomorrow. Yeah. Hey, Zoid Industries, how you doing? Just joined in 5 minutes in, and you're giving sound advice. Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it advice, but learn from my mistakes. Don't put any stock in internet relationships. I mean none. Don't consider anybody you meet online a friend. I do think there is a distinction between an internet friend and an actual friend. Internet friend, always be ready for them to stab you in the back and abandon you. And I know that's a shitty way to kind of... But that's just like the modern day, right? If you make a friendship online, and if you do what I did, which is consider it an actual friendship, when it stabs you in the back and hurts you the same way, they're not going to feel like a real friend would turning their back on you. A real friend, if they had to turn their back, at least would have the guts to look you in the eye. This individual was a coward and couldn't even do that. And it's not even like I didn't give them the opportunity. I tried calling them like 6 or 7 times. I tried inviting them to a group call where we had a mutual friend, meaning that they wouldn't be alone in talking to me. And again, they chose not to bring up any of their problems, not to have any kind of conversation, just This is all I got from them. And they abandoned me and my community, and I'm now convinced we were never friends. And this is not the first time this has happened this year. This is the second time it's happened this year. So I'm, again, neglectfully learning a lesson here. Do not treat online friendships like actual ones like me. Be friendly with people. Make friends online, but keep in mind, you do need to put them in their own category called online friends. And basically treat it like a volatile friend. Like at any time, they can just abandon you. And they will do so without any kind of warning, conversation. Nada. You'll live a lot better of a life if you are always prepared for that abandonment. If I find him, but if I want, nah. Other than this, like, quick round of bitching about him, I don't want to make this stream about that. It's not about that. I'm just bringing it up because it does affect my mood. So anyway, that's badness aside, because let's not dwell. It's over and done with. There's no need to go on about it for like an hour and a half. And I'm not over it. Obviously, it's affected all of my yesterday, and part of my today. So anyway, thank you, Nathan, for the super chat, man. Thank you. First question: who's that gentleman on screen? This is a ghoul. This is a Gretsch ghoul, which is kind of like one of the infantry units for the Gretsch, which are a faction in Warglaive Gothic. So, good use of a transition here. Yes, technically, this one I had to restart, so it might even be behind what people have seen previously of this same one, because I worked on this on a stream 7-8 months ago. But I had to scrap what I had at that point and start over. And this is where I'm at right now with the start over. It looks very similar so far. I gotta fix up the legs a lot more. And I gotta add the next arm. Right now, I've changed a strategy I'm going with right now. I'm gonna make monopose minis. Whereas I'm not gonna make like a sub-assembly gluable on minis. I'm going to do that for obviously models that they won't print properly unless they're in pieces. But for the models that I can, I'm going to print them off as just one whole piece. Where possible, because I've found that sub-assemblies are going to take a lot longer. So, with as many minis as possible, I'm going to try and split them up as monopose models. For now. Later on, I'm going to turn every single unit into sub-assemblies, but that's after I've had a finished miniature for that line. It's just to speed up the initial wave of minis, and then later on I can provide people with sub-assemblies. So that's one update right there. That is a change in my strategy with the miniatures, is we're going forward with monopose. And we're going to move to sub-assemblies after I have a full line of monopose minis. And again, miniatures that just won't print right if they're all in one piece will be the exception. But for as much as I can, I'm going to try and have it all print off as like one whole miniature. Wasn't that long ago? What wasn't? The ghoul? Pretty sure it was like 6 months ago. I could be wrong. I was fairly certain it was 6. Time flies? I mean, it does. Shall I name him Gregory? Why Gregory? What is your reasoning, my friend? Kind of looks like a Dave to me. That could just be me. But anywho. Hold on. I guess I should get to work while we talk. But yeah, like I said, active Q&A. Actual straight updates other than that one I just mentioned. The book is cleaned up to chapter 4. If you're on the Patreon, you have access to the prologue through chapter 4. So basically 5 chapters worth of reading of the first Warglaive Gothic novel are available on the Patreon. I've also shared, as I've gone along with a lot of people on Discord, those very same chapters. So, but only like personal confidants. There's no like public posting for free anywhere. So yeah, if anyone wants to read those who hasn't on Patreon, that is an option. It is not free, but that's again, it's because of people who are directly supporting the project to get that level of an in-depth update. Yeah. As for where I'm actually at in terms of the book for first draft, I'm up to chapter 16 now. I was kind of at chapter 17, but I ended up backtracking what I had written. I'm not backtracking any of the story. The story of the book is figured out. It's just getting to point A to point B to point C to point D. And at that point, my split up of how I had that portion of the book written, it was going to be 2 different chapters. But I'm going to merge it into one, considering I went into too much detail about something really minor that didn't need it, which pushed it into being an additional chapter, if that makes sense. So, again, first draft, I'm up to chapter 16. In terms of finished or close to finished, at this point, the prologue through chapter 4 only need an editor to go through them. I've gone through them and fixed any grammar issues and stuff that I can catch, but for like the most refinement, I'm going to hire an editor, which I need the money for, which will take some time. Which also leads me to further updates in regards to the project. Oh, let me adjust myself here. Right now, this isn't an excuse, mind you. I'm not asking for forgiveness for anybody who's been irritated by it or who has been affected by it. But I did have, there has been next to no Q&As / monthly updates like I had planned on the channel, which, by the way, I'm going to try and get this entire stream in an edited form, for the most part, put up on the Warglaive channel. Sorry, I apologize. I just saw a notification, but it went by before I read it. My apologies. I can't tell if someone just subscribed or if that was something else. My apologies. I only noticed it out of the corner of my eye. I keep hearing the notification. Now I didn't even see that one. Hold on. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jeronis, for donating $5, man. I appreciate it. Don't trust real-life friends. They often are worse or do worse things than people online. Also, I do trust people because of their actions. Go and eat some ice cream, big boy. Get some hugs. I don't have any ice cream. No. I'm just, again, I'm just dealing with it. I'm choosing not to dwell on it too much. So, yeah. Anyway, again, back on track, not dwelling on that stuff too much. So, okay, I went over where the book is at, and the book is at miniatures. I've made, admittedly, very little progress on the minis for 2 reasons. One half of the software I use to make the minis I can't afford right now, and the other half that I'm currently using, which is ZBrush for sculpts, is in and of itself pretty expensive. There we go. So that has caused a lot of progress to halt on that front. And again, it kind of comes back to the project is taking infinitely longer than I first A, pitched, and B, predicted. Because for those of you who saw the very first Q&A, where someone, I believe, asked me, like, how long do I expect the project to take, or how long till we see the game out, I said something around 2 to 3 years. I don't even think it's going to get done in the next 4, because I'm by myself. Now, I don't want to give the implication that I'm not working hard on it or anything. I absolutely am. But I definitely underestimated the sheer wall I'm up against right now. I have next to no budget. I have no team. I'm by myself. And I want everyone to know that I'm doing my best to fill in that gap, to make up for that absence of a team with my effort. But the problem is it's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of my personal money. It's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. I have to do everything from the writing to the modeling to test prints to writing the game rules to testing the game rules. I have to do all the marketing. I have to do all of the design work for the rule books. I have to do. I also have to do. Has to do the trademark and the copyright application. Like I said, it's my apologies. Thank you, Jonas, for the $20. That is super generous of you. Thank you. You shall never know what happened. Smaller budget boost from my side. I appreciate it. I really do. I really do appreciate any amount you guys can give. And that's the thing. I don't want you guys to just donate a shit ton of money just because I'm complaining about budget here. The truth is, all of you could donate $1,000 right now, and I'd still be behind. Well, that's the thing. Again, I've explained this in the past, and I'll do so again. I'm not willing to accept anybody working for free. There's just so many red flags with that. It's not only a legal issue, because when it comes to taking free labor, even if I have someone sign a contract saying, hey, I consent to working completely for free and I sign over all intellectual property to the individual in question, and they could, I'd have my name put on that documentation. I could get it notarized by a judge. But the problem is, in the United States, at least as far as I've looked into the law, and I have and I have consulted a legal expert, it's just on no level is it legal to accept work for 100% free, even if the person signs a waiver, signing it away and signing off that they're a volunteer, because that person can still sue. They can sign off, they can literally claim ignorance to that contract in court, and it will go to court. They can sue me. I can be sued even if I have a contract, again, explicitly saying, from a signed person saying, hey, I consent to it. If for whatever reason they get a hair across their ass against me, they can sue me for it. And they can claim to the judge any laundry list of things. They can say, hey, I was coerced. I didn't understand the breadth of the work. They were too demanding. They can make all these lists to make that sign-off null and void. So it's just too much of a legal risk, even if I have someone sign a legal document saying that they're willing to do the work for free. It's just too much risk. So I have to compensate the person to be safe legally. But I don't have the money to compensate someone to get a legal employee. So this is where we get into this trend of I'm stuck on my own until I have the budget to hire somebody else. Yeah, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, Nathan, but if you're doing anything like 3D modeling, marketing material, anything like that, that's considered work. Like you're doing an employment activity on behalf of the project. Unless you're meaning like moral support, but I'm already getting plenty of that, which I immensely appreciate, and trust me, that's more than enough for that's more than enough that I could ask for, to be honest. Like that's keeping me going, even on my own. Your playtest for Yarn? I mean, actually, legally speaking, that would be considered compensation if you signed off my. But I mean, I wouldn't deny the playtest at least, because playtesting that can't, that's a different kind of area. This kind of games. I mean, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, Jenny. And it would be fun to have you like playtest it with me, because right now for a playtester partner, I only have my brother-in-law, and we've only done 3 playtests of prototype rules I've written up for the game, and all 3 prototypes had wicked holes in them that I need to plug. And they also had a couple of design choices I had for the rules that were very unfun. If I'm acknowledging anything, they made the game feel way longer than necessary. So I had to cut some stuff as well. So I'm on my 4th rendition of the rules right now. And the game rules are, I thought were supposed to be one of the easier parts considering my experience with tabletop war games. But I may have overestimated that as well. Oh, my screen has got some stuff on it. Yeah, that's a video game though, Jenny. This is a tabletop game, kind of like a board game. Actually takes up the whole board of the table, right? Yeah, I have something on my screen, so now I gotta find my Windex. Which I have somewhere around here. At least I thought so. That it. Yeah. The thing is, I do want to stress I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. Like I said before, there's stuff that happened yesterday and that's still kind of on my mind today. That is affecting my mood, and I apologize preemptively if anyone is getting this sense of, like, I'm not giving up on the project by any stretch, and I'm not here to complain to you guys, and I'm not here to seek out sympathy. I really just want you guys to know where everything is at, and I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. That is my goal right now. My goal right now is pure transparency, answering any and all questions you guys have on any level of the project, any of that stuff. That is the goal of not only the stream, but any kind of content going forward in regards to the project. All right, I got that out of the way. The random picture is screensaver. What? Stay strong. I mean, I feel like I'm failing in my goal not to sound like I'm not. Again, I'm trying not to garner any pity here. I really am not. I don't deserve it because again, even by myself, I should be making more progress than I am, and it's just been hard. It's I'm trying to word it in a way that doesn't feel like to me like I'm a pity party here. I'm not. I volunteered for this. This is my dream project. This is something I love and care about. And any hardships I'm coming across with it are on me 100%. The only stress that comes from the project is that other people have invested in it. Now, yeah, not everyone has invested like thousands of dollars, but we're getting pretty close with some individuals. And like not only have I invested a lot of money, other people have invested way more of their money for someone else's dream project to me. And whenever I'm not getting as much done as I'd like, or at the rate I would like to get it done, I do feel bad because it's like it's not just my money that's on the line. It's even if one person gave $1, that's $1 they gave to something because they're looking forward to the end product. They're looking forward to what I have to provide, and I'm confident I'll get it out. But my fear is that they will lose their confidence because it's just not happening as fast as they expected. And I don't feel good about that. And I just keep trudging along, doing my best, and hoping that I'll just live up to the expectations, regardless of some of that trepidation I have in the back of my mind. I just hope I live up to the best of it I can. Yeah, random pictures pop up on ZBrush that like it's kind of like little community things. I think it's the reason it happens every time you're idle, I think, is yes, it is an advertisement of like what other people can do with the product. So I think it's the idea with it is they're hoping it'll give you like it. I think the reasoning that the ZBrush developers have is when they look at you being idle too long, the system interprets that as you're kind of at like a blockage in your creative juices. So they're trying to re-engage that. So they start showing what other people have done and going like, okay, this is what you can do. Do your best. And like, hey, maybe you can like mimic this. Maybe there's this idea you didn't think about. Like, I think that's the reasoning with like the random slideshow thing. That, or it's just to advertise stuff. Like, I don't know. Now we'll stay on clay. Build up. Give us some Bob Ross commentary. Well, I'm altering this really raggedy looking. Did that just increase in? Hold on. Something weird just happened. No, it didn't subdivide it. So why does it suddenly get smoother there? That is strange. Nathan with the generous $8.99 pounds per sterling. I almost said euro. I apologize. Sadly, I can't go out because it's Christmas time. I don't want you to anyway. Again, donate no more than you would have anyway. I'm not seeking a pity party here. It's Christmas time, so you know how it is. I do very much, but I do appreciate any updates you put out. Yeah, and I just wish I had done an update before losing somebody. But we live to regret what we regret, right? There's the... I think I gotta turn down those notifications. Hold on, I think I'm going about this a little bit. Let's do this. There it is. I hear another notification. Why? I think I just duplicated the notification. It's been doing that, hasn't it? I apologize. Hey, Jackson. Everyone asks how Asmo is, what Asmo is, but nobody asks why is Asmo. I don't even think I know the answer to that question. Don't ask me. I don't know. Let's do this. It's been a long getting from there. Hey, temporary alien. Welcome, welcome. Getting from there to here. It's been a long time, and my time is finally new, and I will see my dreams come. Truly, a question to puzzle even the greatest. That's both though. Hey, Calcia, why did you rejoin the community and leave so quickly? By the way, he's not who I was talking about earlier, but unrelated to that. You rejoined the server, and then the next time I look around, you left. Is there something you needed to like look at when you came to the server, and then you just left after you checked it, or what was going on there? Same reason as last time? Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yes. Let's do this. I'm trying to morph this correctly. Alright, so I think we're almost to the point where I can just... Right, now I think we're good to do what I wanted to do earlier. Goal's looking good, especially considering you had to restart it. I saw the previous 2 to 3 live streams of you making it also nice with Faith of the Heart. Faith of the Heart. Oh, is that the name of that song? To be honest, I didn't actually know. I just know it as the theme song to Star Trek Enterprise. Criminally underrated, by the way. So, real quick, I'm trying to think of any other updates with the project. Especially positive ones, because I really do want to Focus on anything good that I can. Yeah, like I said, the book is progressing very, very nicely. I have fun writing it. I have fun getting like reviews on it. I'm actually thinking about putting a poll together for that as well, because I put a poll together for like the people who are in the know on where I'm at for the project and how they're feeling about like updates. I got a few people who were disappointed, a few who were happy with the updates that they're getting. I yeah, man. Alien Lunatic. Yeah, that's the name of the song. Okay. I never knew. I don't know if that rephrasing hurts more. Nothing changed. Like, technically speaking, untrue, but okay. I guess in that regard, no, but I wouldn't say nothing. Thank you, Nathan, for the super chat, man. Thank you. Ease up. You just said you have to save up for the holidays. Don't spend too much on me, okay? So not sure if I already asked this, but what's the scale of units we were talking? I'm a huge sucker for cryptids, but how large will the creatures be? So are you talking about lore, or are we talking about miniatures? Because miniature-wise, they're, so far, in terms of pre-sketches that I've done for myself, because Pierce has been busy, so I can't exactly ask him to do, like, every miniature sketch, especially, obviously, for free. He's got a million and one things on his plate. He can barely get to the projects, the bigger scale artwork I'm asking for, let alone the small scale stuff, and I'm not showing you my sketches, because mine look dreadful. I only draw enough to understand what I need to do. Lore. Okay, lore. Talkery! My man! Fuck! So while I am really not active in the community, well, first of all, that's not a problem. Be it as active as you want to be. I still do have faith in Warglaive Gothic project and your passion for it. I greatly appreciate that. I really do. Because, that's the thing. I stress it as much as I can. I really am passionate and putting in the work. It's just I know that the shortage of updates might not give that impression. But I do. I do work very, very hard on it. And it's just... But yeah, again, thank you, Telcree. That was super generous of you. That is not a small gesture. I thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're excited for more Evoke. Right now, the book is mainly focused on the Sovereignty, which are kind of admittedly, I have a poster boy faction, which is the Sovereignty. They're not my favorite faction. My favorite faction is the Warborn, but I'm not letting any faction be too favorited here. But, yeah. Real quick, though, I gotta finish answering Nathan's question. Nathan, so scale-wise, in lore, because keep in mind, in lore, there are creatures that scale to be... Well, I also gotta be careful of spoilers. There is a planet-sized creature in the lore. That is kind of a spoiler, but not too big a one, because I'm not going to be more specific than that. But in terms of frequency, or things that relate directly to the actual armies in the game, the biggest creature that immediately comes to mind, well, we have things that are the size of Titans and Imperial Knights from like 40k. There are equivalent sized things for pretty much each faction. The Sovereignty have, for example, very, very large mechs themselves. They're not as mech heavy as other factions. In fact, their only mechs are the really, really big ones. They don't really have any small scale ones. They mostly like to focus on biological studies and research and technology, so they don't really do too much focus in regards to that kind of stuff. But if we look at the Terran Republic, for example, the Terran Republic are massively involved in technology. That is their biggest focus. Where, in fact, I would equate it to the Sovereignty's obsession with biology and advancing their biological advantages. The Terran Republic have the same fervor with technology. They constantly want to build bigger, more powerful, more effective mechs. So they have Imperial Knight equivalent-sized mechs, and they have Titan-sized mechs as well. And they even have smaller scale, like more... Not quite even a mech. It's more like a exo armor frame for like combatants. They have stuff like that. So scale wise, things get pretty fucking big. If we look at the Gretsch, they have massive Titan-sized creatures. Their ships are technically a creature. They're a biomass ship that's alive. It's a giant organism. So if we include that, they do have massive fucking monstrosities. Yeah, like there are things that get pretty fucking big. But the biggest thing in the setting is one particular creature that is the size of a planet. And I'm not going to go any more specific than that. But that's like the biggest thing is a planet-sized creature. The smallest creatures are basically the size of like a scarab. A little bit smaller than that. So we got a pretty good range of sizes on the creatures. I hope that answers the question. If it's not, I can use specific examples. But yeah, thank you to you both, by the way, for generosity. Yeah, looking forward to the Warborns and Sovereignty interacts with Evoke from those two viewpoints. Yes. I will say the Sovereignty have a worse relationship with Evoke than the Warborn do. It's kind of a spoiler, but at the same time, I some of that lore, someone requested I make lore videos, which I'm actually going to endeavor to do. So I guess it's just kind of a spoiler for a potential video. The Warborn actually think of the Voke. They know they're Xenos, but they kind of think of them as like a mystic people in connection to their own religion. They believe that the Voke are kind of like a fairy equivalent to their gods, where the Warborn's gods created them as like the apex race that are their children. That's the Warborn to their gods. They believe that their gods are directly related to the Voke because they see the Voke as kind of like fairies. The best way to put it is the Voke to the Warborn are kind of like demigods. They don't respect them though, because though they are related to their gods, they are not seen in a line of respect. They just merely acknowledge their power and their intimidation level to be that of like a demigod. But if anything, that makes it more exciting for them to kill one. If a Warborn successfully rips apart a Vogue, that in their culture would be the equivalent of, if we look at like historical mythology, that'd be like a common Greek soldier taking down Hercules or Achilles. Like you just took down a demigod. That is praiseworthy. And in many ways, it makes you on that level, right? Like reputation-wise. So the Warborn very much see it that way. So whenever they though it kind of see them in that light of like, again, they're kind of like fairies to them, it's not any less exciting to fight them. But the sovereignty, on the other hand, don't have any kind of religious interpretation of the Voke. They purely see them as Xenos, kind of no different than the Rathan, except obviously the Voke are more technologically advanced, so they're far more intimidating. At least on a technological level, maybe not necessarily on an active threat level. The Rathan are more of an active threat, but the sovereignty don't have like the mysticism that the Warborn do. Doug. Oh, thank you, Lane Lutic, for the $20, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. I appreciate it, guys. You guys are being super generous, and I hope nobody's doing it for pity reasons. I hope you guys are genuinely like excited for the project, and I hope I'm giving confidence. I hope I'm giving confidence with it. Again, like it's being worked on. Just again, keep in mind I'm one guy. I'm on my own. Hopefully that'll change at some point. Yeah, I'm actually looking to go to college, free college. I'm not spending any money on it. But there's some programs in my local community college. Okay, am I getting an echo, or is that... Yeah, that's an echo of the alert. Why am I getting an echo of the alert? Let me try doing this. Yeah. Let's see if that gets rid of the echo. There's like this weird repeat I keep catching. But yeah, so my community college is having some free like classes and programs set up nearby where you can get like up to an associate's for completely free. It's a cool program that got set up, and I'm gonna look more into it. And if I can, I'm gonna sign up for that so I can hopefully get a higher paying job. I could always try and apply back to the Navy, but I really don't want to go back there. I might have to just for the sake of the project, because I was making pretty good money there, to be honest. And that, in hindsight, work-wise, the work wasn't that difficult. The people were hard as hell to deal with. Management was terrible. But that's pretty much why they paid you so well. I don't know. I'm debating that as well. But I'm going to try going to the free program for the community college instead, and hopefully get a better job. At the very least, I want to take part of the education program, because it would be fun to become a teacher proper. Right now, I'm a substitute. So I'm not, and technically speaking, categorized as an official teacher, even though I'm handling technically a lesson plan right now, because there's no teacher covering one specific class. And though the vice principal is actually doing the lesson plan, she's consulting with me on it, because I'm the one actually doing the teaching part. Like, I'm actually going in front of the whiteboard, I'm explaining it to the kids, I'm giving them like the worksheets, and I'm helping them through it. So me and her have been working in tandem to try and help that with the kids. So in a way, I technically am doing the full teaching thing right now. It would be good to get that pay. I feel on the not wanting to go back to a job you dislike. Yeah, I mean, I don't, but at the same time, if they'll take me back and I can get my old pay of $22 an hour, that would be a godsend right now. For the project, for like my personal expenses, like... I don't know. It's one of those things where I'd rather not if I had the choice, but I might not have the choice. So yeah, I have debates like that going on as well. Again, I'm gonna try and do the college thing first, because again, if that program is as free as they say, it would really help me out, and I wouldn't have to go back to the Navy. Well, technically, the Navy aren't what made that job suck. It was the management of the shipyard. But I digress. very jumbled knee. Oh, that's why it feels weird. It's not connecting to the back. I see if one of the lore characters is called Thomas Hollandus, then I'm going to take that as a reference. I don't have that. There is a character that is a reference to you in the book. You have not met them yet, but we'll get there. I'll clean up the... It's only in a... I think it's either the chapter after the one I've shared with you guys up to that point, or the chapter after that. You'll probably catch it when you see it. There's also a reference to Tang as well coming up. That one might be harder to catch, though. Probably not. You guys are pretty smart, so you'll probably catch it. It's not... I act like it's subtle, but it's really not that subtle. Of all the factions, which one is most likely to hold throat singing to be part of the... What? Throat singing. Technically, everybody. Like to a level. Probably... Mostly the Terran Republic, I think. Yeah, because they're more of a hodgepodge of like the old cultures from Earth that actually try and maintain a level of culture from Earth, at least from a more modern day perspective. But it's not zero sum in that regard. Warborn as well, but they're less throat singing and more like tribal chants. So again, not really zero sum. I say Space Vampire Night Ladies, but they are a bit more than that. Ask Asmogan to tell you about the 70s Helsing. I think sometime. Yeah, I mean, there's one female Helsing. alive. And they've only had a handful of them in history. Before Melina, there was only one before her. Sorry, two before her. The one of them didn't technically count because she was a failure. So, like, one that actually before her that saw the light of day. In terms of battle and in terms of any kind of, like, reputation. But the vast majority of Helsings are male. That's just coincidentally how the genetics usually line up from the artificial pool that they're generated from. The female, mainly because the genetic, like, synchronization program, because the way Helsings are developed is they have a pool of artificially enhanced and more or less refined genetics. There's only some real quote-unquote DNA in it that's just meant to close or fill in gaps that the artificial programming couldn't actually generate or deemed unimportant to generate, so it just took it from the genetic codes of the DNA that was donated to the pool to continuously be replicated. And that's like things like hair color, eye color, skin tone, things like that. Unimportant details that the programs that develop the artificial DNA don't really deem important. So they just take it from those samples that were provided the pool. It's the reason it's mostly men that are generated is that is what the program deems as the optimal genetic base to which, you know, to apply the super strength, the increased skeleton, the additional heart, the additional lung, the refined organ placements, and it just considers the male frame to be the better base for all of those things. The female base is far more likely to denigrate, fail, and not be able to work with those genetic alterations. So, rarely is a female even produced. But when one is, it does end up working in the program only by luck. So in the case of Melina and her one successful predecessor, it's not necessarily that they succeeded because they were the only females tried. The program occasionally tries it randomly. There's the scientists who even run these facilities that generate the clones and the Helsings have no way of knowing because it's entirely left up to a program, and again, the genetic pool themselves, they don't fully understand because it was all created by the Empress. And the Empress isn't a fan of sharing all the details of it due to not wanting it to be messed with. And the Hyde researchers, well, if you've read the prologue of the book, you know some of them at the very least have the proclivity to fuck with things even when they have years, decades even, experience of reining in Helsings. Sometimes the draw of the intellectual pursuit is a little too magnifying. So, yeah. She doesn't trust him too much. But yeah, generally, when the program does attempt to make a female, it's most of the time a failure from inception. Like, the moment the program even attempts it in the fetal stage, when it's trying to make all the artificial genetic alterations to the base genome of a crypta, it almost always ends up having just this laundry list of failures to the point where the program will even eject the fetus because it already knows it's going to be a failure. So it just starts over with a male and begins from there. In the case of Melina and her predecessor, the one successful predecessor, they were basically luck of the draw that it worked. And that's about it. And even then, both of them have slight issues, which in her predecessor's case was more severe, and you'll see whatever they are for Melina, which I won't spoil. But even then, depending on your point of view, it's not really a flaw. Run any DNA to the pool. It's blood DNA. I mean, I suppose you could get DNA from that other thing. Hopefully, you're not thinking of. But if you are, you know, you're not Alistair crawling up like Loch Ness into the pool, into the genetic pool. Okay. Would you expect this question? What is the standard greeting of the different factions? Actually, I did expect that because I have that written up. So if we're going, I'll start with the Xenos because they have the weirdest ones. The Rathans' form of greeting each other, like if two, typically they don't actually greet each other. They don't really do that. But a sign of greeting that they do between two war bosses, between two chiefs, is typically they lock jaws. Not like a kiss. They literally just bite each other's like jawline, and they do a brief tug of war with each other's faces. And if they successfully hurt, maim, or harm the other, they know they're too weak to deal with. However, if they're able to like lock jaws back and forth, wrestle, and not hurt each other, then they know they're of equal standing, so they'll actually negotiate and they'll converse. So that's, but in terms of a general greeting, the Rathan don't have one. As for the Voke, the Voke's greeting, because they're a psychic communicating race, their form of communication isn't visible. They have procedures they do for like more official ceremonies that does involve a physical act of greeting or sign of respect. But generally, the way they greet each other on a casual basis is it's merely a conversation or a expression of greeting through thought. And sometimes, like in terms of like what the literal verbal interpretation of that would be like the equivalent of a sup. But it's a little bit more nuanced, and again, it's more specific to the individual because they directly point each other out in their minds. So it's there's no proper translation of that in like an act or in terms of a ceremony. It's more just an expression of you specifically greeting, more or less, between their heads. And it's expressed, but with that telecommunication, with that telepathic communication, the form of the greeting is like respectful, accusatory. All of that is expressed right in their heads, like through emotion. Like they sense the emotion of the other individual as they're sending them a silent greeting. That's the Voke. I got the Rathan, I got the Voke. The Gretsch don't have a greeting at all, not even remotely. The Terran Republic, there's two forms of common communication in terms of like a greeting. There's, if you're greeting an individual who is of a higher status than you in society, it's typically done with a bow, and it's a Eastern style bow. That just, stand attention, bow with eyes straight out. But if it's with an individual who is of equal standing with you, then no, it's still not etymology. Well, I'm explaining greeting. Or are you responding to Nathan? Well, anyway. So, if they're greeting an individual of higher class, it's a bow. And if it's of someone of equal standing, they typically will handshake. A handshake is also done as a form of agreement in deals. But it's also a greeting between two common folk, if you will. Let's see. Warborn. The Warborn are a little bit more random because it depends on their relationship. If they're greeting the war chief, the leader of their entire race, they basically get down on one knee and lower their heads in respect. And they wait, and they usually hold out one hand. And if the war chief brushes his hand against theirs, he is acknowledging them to speak to him as a brother, as an equal. If he does not and brushes them aside, they are to not speak with him. They are allowed to stand up, they are allowed to walk away, but he has not acknowledged them as someone he will converse with at that time or speak with. Basically, he's brushed them off. And they're not allowed to argue with that silent gesture. That's how they greet the war chief. They only hold out the hand though if they want to speak with him. If they don't want to speak with him, they'll just simply get on one knee and lower their heads. In case of greeting each other, that's where it gets a little bit more loosey-goosey. They will, if they're like brother-like relationship, maybe not even by blood, but just by like that closeness of relationship, they'll like lock arms, pull each other close into a bear hug, or like a one-armed hug, like brother. If it's a greeting towards a honored mother or just an older woman in their culture who is of a noble standing, whether she was a warrior when she was younger, still is a warrior or not, regardless, women who are older in their society are respected immensely, and they're typically seen as mothers, even if they haven't had children. They also see it in like a mentorship, so they call them honored mothers if they're of like an older age, typically around 80 or 90 years old. And keep in mind, Warborn lifespan is around 220 years, is if they go uninterrupted or unabated. Average lifespan in practice is typically 40 to 50 years, mainly because they get killed in battle so often, and not even necessarily against like an enemy species or race, but sometimes just battling each other for territory, or over a mate, or over a couple other things, like food, or a ship, or slaves, or a number of other things. Really, like, they're as much a risk to each other's survival as everybody else in practice. All in all. But yeah, greeting-wise, the older motherly figure, older woman figure, they greet them similarly to the way they greet a war chief, except instead of like a on one knee kind of bow, it's more of a lowering of the head, and you do like lower your stature in a submissive manner, but it's more just kind of a bow. It's not like an Eastern style bow, but it's more like you lower your head in respect, and they'll communicate to you if they tell you to lift your head, or they just simply gesture to you and speak to you. But older women are treated with an immense amount of respect in the Warborn culture. Older men, veteran warriors, again, it's more loosey-goosey. If they're of the same age as honored mothers, they're not usually bowed to or like heads lowered to, because that's considered actually disrespectful to an older man in their culture. Because it's a sign of fear, it's a sign of submission, and if you do that to an older man in a culture, you're basically saying like, oh, I'm only a slave to you. And that can be considered an invitation to own you. Which, technically speaking, there is two interpretations of that, and depending on who you're dealing with, that is not incorrect. Either interpretation. So yeah, if you don't want to become someone else's bitch, literally and figuratively, don't lower your head to an older man, because it's almost disrespectful. You need to look him in the eye. You need to see him as himself, as a warrior of the Warborn, as a man of honored living. If he has lived to that age, it's just as impressive as the honored mothers living to that age. They've survived quite a bit. They're like a veteran status just by default. And they are to be respected. They have earned that by virtue of their age, and they are seen as like elders. So you are to look a man in the eyes to both imply to him that you are his equal, socially standing-wise. You're not his equal in experience. He is your mentor regardless if he is directly teaching you or not, but he is of a higher status just by his age. But you need to look him in the eye as a sign of respect, because you are acknowledging him. So that is important between the difference. Honored mother, you lower your head in respect. honored elder man, you look him in the eye. You look at him. You take in the warrior that he is. So that's two very different respects that are done. But again, outside of that, and the war chief, there's really no protocol. It's if they're of the same age as you, if they're only a little bit older than you. Hell, they could be your parent. It's like a bro hug moment. It's a high five. It could be a handshake. It could be a gripping of the arms. Any gesture of greeting you want as someone your age and your standing. But if you look at, like, again, it's if you're a much older man and woman, there is a protocol. And if you're speaking to the war chief, that is incredible. Like, the war chief, if you don't get on one knee and, lower your head, it's considered automatically a sign of disrespect, and he has every right to cut your head off. Because it can also be seen as a sign of challenge. You are standing up to the war chief. By all accounts, you could challenge, to be frank, if you wanted to, you could take that as an opportunity to challenge him for command. But keep in mind, the war chief is the war chief for a reason. They killed a lot of people to be able to get that job. They're pretty good at it. But, so we got the Warborn, we got the Rathan, we got the Voke. Rathan, Voke. Terran Republic, Warborn. I guess we're now at the Sovereignty. And the Sovereignty, it's a lot more regal. And there's a lot more different greetings. I guess we'll start from the top down. If you meet the Empress, which is extremely rare, and if you get that honor, you are either of a very high, very, very, very high birth. You are very, very lucky because she asked for you personally. Is the War Chief a wolf? All of their race are werewolves. So, and the modern War Chief is he's a wolfkin. As in he transforms into a wolf. But it's not like a rule. Like, the war chief can be a werebear, they can be a were-tiger, they can be any of the other varieties of the more noble families of the different genetic, variants. But the modern war chief is a werewolf. One of his nicknames is Greyback, though no one really calls him that outside of close friends. He has a more popular nickname. Sounds like a job I wouldn't want. No retirement. Yeah, there isn't retirement. The only way a war chief retires is if they die or are replaced. And in both scenarios, they die. Because the only time you can be replaced as a war chief is if you are defeated in battle. Now, that can be in two forms. If you're defeated by a foreign force, let's say they had a battle with a Vogue and the war chief was killed, his second would take the spot of war chief. Now, the second is usually determined by that individual war chief. For example, one of the first ever war chiefs designated his wife as his second, but she died before he did, and he had to name a second, which he ended up naming his brother. And when he died of poisoning, his brother took over. His brother was not the one who poisoned him. In fact, his brother got revenge for the poisoning. But death is not retirement, death is death. I mean, it is retirement for the Warborn. It's I've lived a good life. I can see the Volk's greetings being like a psychic handshake. That's what I was describing earlier. Like, one would measure the pressure of the hand or how refined the hand feels, like when one feel a warrior hand was. It's not exactly like that. The Volk tend to greet each other. The psychic greeting for the Volk, like I said before, it's like there's no verbal equivalent to it. It's acknowledging the individual who you wish to greet, and you are expressing your emotions to them. they recognize it as a greeting because they sense it's directed at them, and they also know what type of greeting it is because of the emotion that's expressed in their head. If it's an accusatory, like, hello, you there, come here, it's like a guard catches you, right? They would feel the accusatory nature of the psychic connection, and typically it would also be more forceful in your mind. But if it's more of a casual greeting, you'll get that, and you can also, like, they fully open each other up in that brief moment of that greeting. So if there is any malice between the two who are about to speak, it is immediately sensed by both parties, and they know it's going to be confrontational. But likewise, in that same vein, that also means they know when each other are greeting each other in a loving way, in a permissive way, in a promiscuous way. Yeah, full range of that. But there's like no physical or verbal equivalent to it. Like, just imagine the most open greeting possible. Like, just, it's all laid bare in a brief, 3 seconds. Like, the full range of emotions, the full range of feeling, the full impression of the connection, the urgency, all of it just immediately absorbed in 3 seconds. And again, there's no verbal equivalent to get all of that information in one exchange. It's a full conversation's worth of a greeting in 3 seconds, if that. That's what the Vokes communication is like. And again, compared to our verbal communication, it's also a lot quicker, it's a lot more reflexive, responsive, and you can greet 50 people in less than a minute. Or all at once, if you're a powerful enough psychic. But yeah. In regards to the sovereignties greeting each other, that's where things get a lot more, again, tiered. Regardless of what way you end up in the Empress's presence, the greeting for the Empress is, if you're a girl, it's a curtsy. And it is a refined curtsy. It's not just a half-assed, It's a full, elegant curtsy. With your head lowered, turn to the side. Just turn to the side, lowered. Curtsy. If you have a skirt, you hold it up. If not, you just kind of hold your arms out, and you cross your legs. Curtsy. If you're a man, it is a full gentleman's bow. Likewise, head turned to the side, lowered, eyes closed. And typically your arm is put down at your waistline. And your other arm is held completely out, kind of like a swan fling out, lowered. And it's typically a 3 to 4 second bow. Anyone low rank probably straight up kowtowing. Regardless of your society rank, the way you're to greet the Empress is pretty specific. It is a elegant greeting. And it can be very peacocky. I mean, that is also what happens, but that's less of a greeting. A greeting is like I'm expressing. It's the full... But that's assuming it's a conversation or an exchange. If the Empress summons you for a reason, that's not a greeting. That's, you either done fucked up or you done did good. And you can't really know which until you're there. So, better just to be on the safe side, get on your knees, lower your head, and just be ready for the whip. And if you're lucky, again, you done did good. You're there for a good reason. Either way, there's plenty of reasons to be nervous. But an actual greeting to her, if she summons you out for a social call, is again curtsy or a full head turn bow. But that's different. But yeah, that's like a greeting to the Empress. The full prostration is more common because she's very rarely social with anybody outside of her advisors or her aides. So outside of the Empress, though, with the curtsying and the bowing or prostrating, again, that's not really a greeting, but we'll add it to the list. Outside of that, when it comes to the lords and ladies of the noble families of the sovereignty, there's many different houses, but generally across the board, it's similar. You'll do a bow. It's not as important to get right as the one in front of the Empress. The one in front of the Empress is almost a performance. Like, you need to nail it right. If not, it can be a sign that you don't care, and she doesn't even need to kill you. The grim guard that defend her might kill you because they might interpret it as an insult, and they don't take that very well at all. So you better get it right, or you won't have a head to work out what you did wrong with in a couple seconds. But in regards to the lords and ladies, they are typically greeted with a bow and a curtsy, similarly. If you're of lowborn status, you'll just keep a solid bow. You don't need to do like a full performance one like you would with the Empress. You would just do like a flat, you do nobleman's bow, which is like arm down waistline bow, and you keep your eyes straight down as a sign of respect and acknowledgement of your lower status. And if they reference you or they talk to you, then you know it's okay to cease that. If not, you maintain that until they pass you, or they completely move on from you. The lords and ladies are when they greet each other, they're of equal standing. They will do kind of like a half bow, or they'll even do a handshake. Theirs is more cordial amongst each other, but even then, there is still a level of peacocking. Like, they don't want to be known amongst the other nobles as, hey, that's the noble that just patted the other one on the shoulder nonchalantly. What a cur! What a savage! What absolute ridiculousness! Can you believe the gall of that man to act so forward as to brush your shoulder? No. You can do that. There's no law against it. But you'll be gossiped about it at best, and at worst, they'll be plotting your assassination if they feel you're going to do it too many times and annoy them. Isn't it fun being a lord? So the lords and ladies are greeted with a level of nobility and grace, and they try to do that with each other, but if you don't, that can result in feuds. Sometimes silent ones that lead in death, and sometimes loud ones that lead in death. And sometimes silent ones that don't lead in death, but lead in quite a bit of backstabbing and fuckery that you don't really want to deal with. So, yeah, the lords and ladies, there is a level of nuance and peacocking to deal with. Now, when you get to how Helsings are greeted or spoken to, or that's where things also start to get again, the sovereignty has the most nuance with this. It is very, very dependent on class. And guess what, folks? Now you can become a lord or lady too. Don't bring that up. Especially since I found out that was a scam recently. Like, I was surprised by that, actually. Not that it seemed like a trustworthy thing. It seemed like so mundane, I didn't expect that to end up being a scam. But yeah, that ended up being a scam. But yeah, so when we get to the Helsings, they're referred to as lord. And in the case of Melina, as she's the only female amongst them, lady, but vast majority of them, lord, by the commonry. If they're being referred to by if a lord of the nobility of the sovereignty references them, usually they're also called lord back. So I guess what they saw the Helsings are seen as socially amongst the crypta, they're seen as lords and ladies. Again, mainly lords. Melina's the only living lady amongst them. So they're seen socially on that level, but they don't do anything like the lords and ladies do. And amongst the lords and ladies of the courts, they respect them. They see them as powerful warriors, but they don't necessarily actually consider them lords and ladies in the sense of being the same thing as themselves. They understand authority-wise, they are equal, if not superior, to most of them, in a sense. The lords and ladies, by all accounts, can order a Helsing to do something, and by all accounts, the Helsing is obligated to do so, even if the lord or lady they're being instructed to do something by is not the one they directly serves house. Because in terms of structure, the Helsings are kind of like knight houses, but they all serve a lord or lady's house. For example, Rinsler from the book and his entire in the 11th Fleet Helsings, they serve House Corvus. They're the Corvus Helsings, and they even wear tabards to reflect the color of the house banner. They directly answer to the Lord of House Corvus, and all of that Helsing houses are similar to that. They serve a lord or lady of the noble houses of the sovereignty. They are subservient to them. Now, in terms of authority, the Empress is their ultimate authority. If they were ordered by the Empress to assassinate the lord and lady they directly serve under, it'd be done. There'd be no hesitation. There'd be no questions. There'd be no confirmation. Done. Do it in a second. So, by all accounts, they serve directly the Empress. But the Empress, in a sense, and again, this is very technical, it's all a lot of posturing. She gifts the Helsings to each of the noble lords and ladies to serve them, but by all accounts, the Empress makes the big honcho orders. She orders the house nobles to send their Helsings to fight in specific wars and battles, to join specific fleets. But next to the Empress's authority, the lord and lady of a given house is the next highest authority that the Helsings obey. The only other equivalent rank to that would probably be the Lord Commanders of the military, like the High Generals that are direct advisors to the Empress. But even then, they are rarely given orders by them in that vein. And they are also lords and ladies, so they tend not to want to step on other lords and ladies' toes for, again, not wanting inter-house conflicts. And if they're direct advisors to the Empress, they have even more reason not to distract themselves with, like, familial wars with other houses. You're a little concentrated on not pissing off the lady that can twist your head around like a fucking spinny top just because she got a little eye twinge of irritation with you. You're trying to keep that calm, so you don't really want to have to deal with that. It's like one stress at a time. But I was less surprised and more disappointed. Like, really? Oh well. To what? Oh, with the estate thing scam. Yeah, that was kind of disappointing. But yeah, the Helsings serve directly into the houses and those nobles ladies, but socially and societally, technically, they're on the same level of lords and ladies. Lords mainly. But they're knights. They very much thematically. They serve the houses. They serve the Empress. They serve under a banner. That's their role. Head fidget spinner, pretty much. Like, she'd turn your head into a fidget. It would go faster than a fidget spinner if she was pissed enough. So don't piss off the telekinetic lady that can crush a car if it slightly annoyed her with its noise from a distance without moving her hands. Or even really looking at it directly. So, yeah. Stressful working for that kind of person. Let's see. But yes, the lords and ladies of the courts and the royal advisors will greet Helsing with respect, and similarly to how they greet like an actual fellow lord of the noble houses. Like, again, half bow, kind of like acknowledgement, my lord. Pleasure to meet you, my lord. That kind of thing. But again, they're not officially seen as actually of that class by the nobility. So now we've passed that. As for the way Helsings greet each other and how they greet the lords, they are kind of the anomaly amongst the culture of sovereignty society. They are under no social or etiquette obligation to greet you any particular way at all. Technically speaking, though they do have a protocol, it's not official. They, technically speaking, don't even have to introduce themselves to the Empress with any kind of protocol or approach. They could just walk in and be like, "Sup? How you doing, Queenie? How you doing?" They'd probably die, but they are under no official obligation to speak to her or anybody else a certain way. They're kind of the exception within their society. And most of the different houses, based on what they're instructed to by the lords that they serve, will have different greetings. Maybe in a few years we can get a game of Wrath and Tide. I would have it in a if I hired Fat Shark to do it, I'd have a contract saying they are not allowed to release the game or even give it a release date until I approved what A, their plan, and B, I QA tested it. It's like, hey, there are connectivity to issues and this thing is fucking crashing, so I guess what's not releasing? Oh, but the publisher, I don't give a shit. The contract, your publisher signed it. Sorry, push it back 6 months. Thank you. Although, that would depend highly if I would want Fat Shark to do it. But yeah, let's see. So yeah, they're under no obligation to greet lords and ladies any particular way, but house lords and ladies do teach them a specific way to greet people all the same. They don't have to, but they do. It's just a sign of respect. They greet each other very much casually. Most Helsings will refer to each other as brother, like that. Older brother, younger brother, depending on what batch they were, what year they were produced. If they're directly related to each other, like podkins, as they're referred to, their kinship of those they directly were brought into the world with and trained alongside. But the greeting is very casual. It's it's locking arms. It's if they're close enough, they will hug each other. All that is acceptable, and that's typically how they approach each other. But most of the time, it's a head nod or a acknowledgement of brother, greetings. It's very stalwart and not cold, but it's nothing too boisterous. Like where the Warborn will greet their direct kin and their direct equals with like this verbose like my good friend, and they'll like bear hug each other. The Helsings will be more like greetings. It's far more casual and very regal. And so we've gotten through most of the tiers of how they handle each other societally. Extreme stoicism. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Extreme stoicism. Let's see. So, in terms of how normal military officers will introduce each other, obviously of higher rank, they'll stand at attention and salute. If they're of lower rank, they'll just be given a nod of recognition. This is normal soldiers, by the way, not Helsings. Again, Helsings are very stoic, as Jacob Jones put it very, very appropriately. Let's see. I think I've gone through all I guess like the casual citizenry, peasantry, if you will, of the sovereignty will introduce each other and greet each other just like common folk. They don't even really, that's when things get loosey-goosey for their society as well. If you're of the lowest rank, you're not really expected to act a certain way to each other. Like to higher rank, obviously, like I said before, they'll bow and they'll they won't look a noble in the eye or anything. That's treated with great amount of tension and respect. But amongst each other, there's no official casual greeting in the sovereignty. There technically is one. They don't handshake each other as a greeting. What's a common practice in the sovereignty is a male and female will peasantry will introduce each other with a hand up and they'll get like about that close in distance, and they will just simply more or less like mimic like a circle rotation of the hand, and then do like a head nod bow, and that's like but that's like, to do something like that, you'd basically be like meeting up with like either a woman of higher status, not necessarily a lord, but like maybe a business owner, or she's a property owner of something you're trying to check out, something like that. But like a normal woman you would just run into, you wouldn't really do anything like that. That's just something like more, I guess you would say, formally introduce or formally greet. Like, for example, if you wanted to marry a girl and you met her mother, you would do that greeting. Like, hands just in front of each other, one rotation around, and then a half bow. That would be the time you do that. Greeting an older man in a formal way in the sovereignty is not done the same way. It's far more of, if a young woman is meeting an older man, typically there is no greeting. There is like a hello, like they do with that kind of a verbal greeting, but there's no like protocol or procedure. If anything, the only rule with that is they're not allowed to get too close. Especially if one or both are married to other people, considering it can be considered cheating. Not like the moment they get too close. Oh, they got within. Get the rocks, beat her. She's a cheating whore, and throw him in the river. He's a man whore. It's more like just it's not done. Like you don't get near a taken person. Like, basically, everyone would react if, like, two strangers just walked up to each other with rings married to someone else and they kissed each other. Like, the same, like, gossip that would happen for that, for, like, our world, would happen for the peasantry. Like, they would be like, oh, did you see that? Did you see what Nancy just did? That cheating whore. She got within 2 feet of that man. Do you think they're cheating? They must be. My God. So even in the lower class, they do have stuff like that, but would it be of higher rank than other people? Yes. Not like, again, like they could order your execution like on a spot. It's not that kind of higher rank. It's just they're of a higher social class. Like, amongst the peasantry, there are classes. It's just they don't really tangibly have any actual power over each other. It's just you're more wealthy than me. So you have more, therefore you most likely also have more social influence. It's an invisible class system within the peasantry, but there's no like official rank. It's not like, oh, you own a business and this person is like doesn't, and they're just a worker. That means you can order the guards to have them killed. Like, no, nothing like that. It's more like just, this person is seen with more respect because they own a business, and this person is seen with less because they're just some common worker. But, yeah, that's, but like I said, there's like no official rank within that. The peasantry have invisible ranks that don't actually have any tangible effect. The tangible effect of authority only starts once you get into nobility proper. Like, noble birth of a noble family. Hell, even if you're part of a sub-family to a noble family, you have more of that. Hello, enter the questions. Hello. Oh, my favorite streamer. Really? I'm your favorite streamer? Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. How are you? Welcome. Sorry, I spent so long explaining that. But yeah, I guess that was the long way of me explaining, yes, I have indeed thought about that stuff to that level. I've broken down the cultures quite extensively. Ooh, my neck. So, am I missing any detail that about that anyone wanted? Any additional detail you guys want on that one? sweating a little bit. User 50k subs at least. Well, I appreciate that. I'm not like craving massive subscriber counts. It would be nice to have a high subscriber count, but I'm not like I need it, you know. Oh hey, it's Greg. Answer the questions. Oh, you mean yeah. Wait, is it Greg or is it George? What are we going with the nickname of the ghoul? We're still. I thought we were still determining that. Oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Do you like Rings of Power? No. No, I do not. Not at all. I say Greg. Ah, so you say Greg, Lightning says Greg, and someone said George earlier. Ooh. Yeah, again, I don't have an official designation. Mr. Tongue Guy. Okie dokie. So, looking there. Okay, well, that needs more of a smooth transition, like the other side, so let's do this. And we're back to sculpting grade. Yes. I'm sorry. It sometimes is hard for me to multitask in regards to, especially when I'm explaining something in such detail. Like my brain needs a second to like remember everything I've written down. So, yes, I apologize. It happens from time to time. Sajah Critic isn't the same anymore. I mean, no, but to be fair, he's Doug Walker and like the Channel Awesome like crew. They turned into a business, right? Like they did what a lot of people do when they do something for so long, and especially when they do it for their income, right? Like it's the job. Like this is what I do to pay the bills. This is what I do. I think that's definitely what it's become for the Channel Awesome crew. Not just Doug Walker and his brother, but like everybody involved in it. Like Tamara and... Hey, Elder. How you doing, Chief? As I get distracted sometimes. Yes, I do. And sometimes that distraction, unfortunately, gets people mad at me. Like Jenny during New World. We got angry at me because I was talking about... I was talking about Ragnarok with Alder. God of War Ragnarok. An offense I shall deem my best not to repeat that same mistake. As to not offend the Jenny. Usually me. Is your girlfriend? I don't know. I haven't talked to her. I am single. I think she's doing pretty good right now. She moved to Ohio. And checked in with her a week ago. So she, at the very least, last time I talked to her, she was okay. But we're not dating anymore. I was afraid he wouldn't get any sleep. I mean, that's a safe fear, given the amount of grinding you do. Mm-hmm. 'Cause, 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 'cause What have I missed? Just got done bringing firewood in. Oh, I spent like the last 40 minutes explaining how each of the factions within their societies greet each other. If you wanna, I'm not repeating myself. So if you want that full spiel, I'm afraid you're gonna have to back up the stream just a little bit and watch that through. No, I've not heard that song, Kill Kill. I probably don't even know the band that sings it. Visa Fran und Mira. Yeah, no. Don't know that one. Memorial Leonard Nimoy. Okay. Video editing is hard work. I mean, it definitely can be, yeah. It's not as hard work as some other things for sure, but it can be frustrating for sure. Hopefully Nurgle's plague isn't coming for me. That would be awful right now, especially. Oh, God. fuck was that? Oh man, my back. Have you ever those days where you feel like you should have some pop? You said I almost said pop. Wow, that worked. Yeah, language, English. I can speak that. Ever had those days you feel like you need coffee, but you just don't have any because you don't like the taste, but you need like the energy? USB port being screwy. Sometimes it can be. Yeah, but I don't know if that's what that was just now. Possibly. Wouldn't surprise me. Question. Are we going to get any spin-off factions? You know how the Gene Stealer cults are just part of the NIDS, same idea? There are some in... There already are some in lore. They're not gonna be there on with the first version of the game, because right now I'm just trying to keep everything balanced with the 5 factions. So for right now, there are some in the lore. And later, after first edition, probably will make them playable on tabletop. So yes, but it's kind of a ways out. That makes sense. Actually, technically, there's 3 of them that could work, because you have the cultists for the Grudge. The biocultists, as they're called in the lore. And the biocultists. The techno raiders from the Terrans. No, just those 2, because the third one I'm thinking of isn't really it's not really a spin-off faction. It's more just a flavoring of another faction. And they're still technically part of the faction, so it's not... Yeah, so those 2. Biocultists and the Techno Raiders. But they're only in lore for right now. Would that print well? I think that'll print well. Hold on. Something I want to do. Just debating if it would print well. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Matthew Gordon, thank you for the super chat, man. Thank you. Just got some good news, so wanted to spread good vibes. I appreciate it. I'm glad you got good news, man. What'd you get? Oh, well, of course, if you're comfortable sharing. If not, that's fine. Thank you for sharing the good vibes, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's good to hear you got good vibes. Hope they keep on coming, brother. It was me, Rinsler. I am the Warglaive. Yeah, memes. What was I, Dio? Again, I'm getting duplicate. Why am I still getting duplicated alerts? God damn it. Got another job and start training Monday. Yes, awesome, man. Good to hear. What's the job? That's weird. Nah. Will the Rathan have any subspecies deviations? Like, well, they have. They don't have any subspecies deviations. They do have. Gotta be careful with that one. They have something akin to that. If that works for an explanation without being too detailed. It's not really a subspecies. It's more like they're a subspecies of something else. Yeah. Armed. Okay. Nice. Question I asked earlier yet don't think it was answered. Roughly how many chapters do you think I planned for? Oh, okay. I didn't see that earlier. I apologize. I don't know. I don't have an exact plan of how many chapter numbers. I have the story I want to write. And once I have that, I know how many chapters I'll have. But I think it'll be around 24 to 26 chapters. That's what I think it'll be. But I'm not trying to constrict myself with chapter number. It's more like I'm trying to fit the story in that format of chaptering segments of it. but I have the narrative I want. I have the story I want to tell in the first book. It's just not really, I don't really want to say, okay, I have to cut it off at chapter 20 or I have to cut it off at chapter 24. It's more like, I have this story I want to tell. I'm doing my best to fit it in a reasonable amount for a book for people to read. And whatever number chapter it ends up being that. But I'd say, based on how it's all unfolding right now, I'd say about 20, 24 chapters. It's already over, almost a little over 200 pages now. So, which I think after I clean it up, I might be able to drop that, but I still have more to write. So it'll probably be over 200 pages plus. I wouldn't really call that one a spoiler because you don't have the other part of the puzzle to complete that. I gave you a detail that is useless until you get the other half of the puzzle, which you do not have. I mean, yeah, but that's kind of the nature of asking lore-related questions. As you guys don't have the full lore, anything I say at this point is technically a spoiler. But, yeah. Excuse me. How long? So when did you start doing the 3D modeling stuff? It looks very complicated. Started when I was 14. 13 actually. 13, and I'm 23 now, so about a decade. I've been doing it for about a decade. I wouldn't say it's complicated. It's complicated if you don't know how to do it. If that makes sense. It's like any trade. Like drywalling looks complicated to me, but it's probably easy as fuck for anybody who's ever done drywall. Concrete looks complicated until you do concrete. Anything looks complicated if you don't know how it works. If you don't, once you know how it works, it's easy as pie. It's like, yeah, I know how to do that. Ozzy Osbourne is a lot more Neanderthal than average human. Don't ask what the hell that has to do with anything because I don't know. I don't know either. I suppose there's no point in me asking. Oh, whoops. Do the Rathan know about their car's extended warranty? Nope. Nor do they care. Give you an idea how chaotic they are. They wouldn't care if the IRS came for them. They leave the IRS. Yeah. Have I heard of Ved Stanford Brewer? No. I have not. I don't know if that'll print well, but I like the detail. Ooh. Speaking of music, how does that go for the game? I have a track for the Warborn, the Sovereignty, although I'm going to rework the Sovereignty one because it's a little... And I have, of course, the Wrathen one, which has got a finished theme and video. Other than that, I have, no new ones, unfortunately. As for in lore, though, oh yeah, there's plenty of music. Pretty much every faction except for the Gretsch has music. For the Warborn, it's like more ceremonial stuff. They do have some like chants and like whenever they're traveling and they're enjoying a meal together on their ships, they'll sit around and they'll sing tales to each other and like a limerick. Yeah, they got lots of music, but like the more grandiose stuff is for like ceremonies or special occasions, weddings, that kind of thing. Wrathen have a lot of music, but it's some of it we would not describe as music. More like banging as much metal together in what is only a semblance of a rhythm. Until you get to their war chants, which is when they go a little bit more rock and roll almost. The Sovereignty have a lot of music, but it's more grandiose and some of it's spiritual. But it's like opera and church pews, an organ, that kind of thing. Terran Republic have a ton of different music. They have more ceremonial music. They have music for like the younger generation, which is akin to hip hop. They have kind of a hard rock scene for kinda within the Republic, but it's for the like the younger generation. It's not for like the older, and it's definitely not music that is played anywhere outside of like more common areas like a cafeteria or something like that. It's not like an official faction music. It's more like just a cultural thing that they have. The Volk have music, sort of. Theirs is more hypnotic. That makes sense. Growing chance of sovereignty. Yeah, a lot more of that. Oh, man. Stop doing that. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to. Yeah, I'm gonna say. I know the stream's really, really short, but I'm gonna grab some dinner because I still haven't, unfortunately. And doesn't unless you guys have any other questions. Like, if you guys have any other questions, we'll keep going. But if we're all set on the Q&A side of things, I'll hop off. Yeah, the main goal with the stream was like to do any updates and answer any questions you guys have. But if we're all set on that front, I think I'll call it. Especially as it's like really hot in here, so I'm gonna get in my pajamas. You need sleep? All right, get some sleep, man. Ooh. Alright then. Well, have a good night, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope this actually served as a somewhat decent catch up, so you all know where everything is, and that I'm not abandoning or slowing down hardly at all. Only thing that's really slowing anything down is lack of finances, which I got a lot of generosity tonight, which I appreciate. And yeah, man. I don't know why all of a sudden I feel so fucking tired. What the hell? Yeah, again, if anyone has any questions or who watches the VOD of this, yeah, please feel free to leave a question in like the comment section of the VOD, and I'll try and answer that as well. Yeah, if you guys got anything at all kind of ringing around your head for anything, just sing it out, and I'll be glad to answer anything that comes my way. Outside of that, I think we're all set. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys are still excited for the project. I know it's a long ways away. Hopefully you guys are excited for as many updates as I can put together and have for you guys. Yeah, all that fun stuff. And I'm going to call it a night. Well, I'm going to try and start his other... Actually, do I want to start his other arm or do I want to finish his legs? I'll probably start his other arm. To be honest, like just get the whole top half of him done and then move on to the lower half. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.